Kahalau Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rekakadash, Kwan Jashurala, greetings to the hopeful elect, saying all the Israelites and to all the good people of all the, every nation that strives to get right. Okay, this is part 3 of the top 10 most evil women in the Bible, and we're gonna give you Delilah, the Witch of Endor, Lot's wife, and then Gomer, the prostitute wife of the prophet Hosea. So let's get edified. Now, everybody knows, if you don't know, Delilah's she's the wicked girlfriend of that sucker for love, Samson. She sold him out basically for riches, to his enemies, and so when she got the she got the truth of where the source of his power came, and then she got him, when he told her, then she got his hair cut, and then they gauged his eyes out, so he was definitely blinded by lust, and she's like synonymous now with like a voluptuous, treacherous woman. So let's get edifying. Let's go to Judges chapter 16, Samson and Delilah, right? Once Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute and went into her. The Gazanites were told, Samson has come here. So see, she was a harlot. So they circled around, right? And they laid in wait for him all night. They kept quiet all night, thinking, let us wait until the light of the morning, then we will kill him. But Samson laid until midnight, right? Then at midnight he rose, took hold of the doors of the city gate and the 2 posts, pulled them up, and then in his shoulder, and carried them to the top of a hill. It is in the front of Hebron, right? Okay, I'm gonna bring it all the way down, actually, to verse 13. They couldn't fade him, until he was a sucker for love, Now let's see. Then Delilah said to Samson, until now you have mocked me, right, and told me lies. Tell me how you could be bound. He said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my head with the pin, then I shall become weak and be like anyone else. So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 locks of his head and wove them into a web and made them tight with the pin. Then she said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he woke up from his sleep and put away the pin, the loom, and the web. See, he should have known already that she was trying to set him up, but he was blinded by lust. Then she said to him, how can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? What an idiot he was. And that's how Jake is, man. You have mocked me 3 times now and have not told me what makes your strength so great. Finally, after she had nagged him with her words day after day and pestered him, he was tired of to death. So he told her his whole secrecy. He told her that a razor has never come upon his head, for I have been a Nazarite to Yahweh Elohim from my mother's womb. Yeah, see, he was, man, at one time. That's why he has spiritual powers, man. You know what I'm saying? The Nazarites have spiritual powers, man, If my head were shaved, then my strength would leave me. I would become weak and be like anyone else, right? When Delilah realized that he had told her his whole secret, she sent and called the lords of the Philistines, saying, this time come up, for he has told me his whole secret. Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her, brought the money into her hands. She led him to fall asleep on her lap, and she called the man who had shaved off the 7 locks off his head, and began to weaken, and his strength left. Then the Philistines were upon Samson. When he woke up from his sleep, he thought, I would go out as at the other times and shake myself free, but he didn't. He did not know that Yahweh had left him. Yeah, the spirit, spiritual powers had left him. So the Philistines seized him and gauged out his eyes, like I say, was blinded, and they bound him, with bronze shackles, right? So Samson ends up being a slave, right? And and they mocked him, He was blinded. So in verse 28, he says, Samson called upon Yahweh Shai, saying, Yahweh Elohim, remember me and strengthen me only this once. O Yahweh Elohim, so that with this one act of revenge I may pay back the Philistines for my 2 eyes. And Samson grasped 2 middle pillars on which the house rested, and he leaned his weight against them, his right hand on the one and his left on the other. Then Samson said, let me die with the Philistine. He strained with all his might, and the house fell, and the lords and all the people, the Philistines, with him. Yeah? So those who killed at his death were more than those who had killed during his life. Basically, everybody in that building died. You know what I'm saying? Then his brothers and all his family came down and took him and buried him, right? Anyways, man, that's a lesson to be learned, man. I'm saying that never fall victim to a wicked woman's ways. You know what I'm saying? Physically or spiritually, you know. Next, we're gonna go to the Witch of Endor. You know, she was a medium. You know, this witch, you know, she made a living, you know, by attempting to conjure the dead in order to like predict the future. Necromancy is absolutely forbidden, man. You know what I'm saying? In our laws, it says that you know we should kill someone that has a familiar spirit. So you know, at that time, King Saul, you know what I'm saying, had done a law that you know anybody that was caught doing divination was getting killed. So she would risk her life, you know what I'm saying, doing her sorcery, you know. But you know how, but ironically, Saul fell out of grace with the Most High, so he went and sought her help, man. Right before he died too, you know, basically he didn't believe in the Most High, you know what I'm saying, because he had lost, he had fallen off, you know. And you know, let's recap that in 1 Samuel chapter 28 and go to the verse. Saul consults a medium, right? Now Samuel had died, and all the Israel had mourned for him and buried him in Ramah, his own city, right? Saul had expelled the mediums and the wizards from the land. The Philistines assembled and came and encamped at Shunem, because he was at war with the Philistines, right? Saul gathered all Israel, and they encamped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the army of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. See, he had no faith, man, because you know what I'm saying? Because fear is the opposite of faith, man. See, right? So he had no faith in the Most High, right? You know, when Saul inquired of Yahweh Elohim, he did not answer him, right? Not by dream or by Urim or by prophet. You know, the Most High was through. He was done with him. Then Saul said to his servant, "Seek out for me a woman, a medium, so that I may go to her and inquire of her." His servant said to him, "There is a medium in Endor." You know, people in Endor got taken out too, man, because they were all wicked. So Saul disguised himself and put up another clothes and went there, right? And you know, I'm gonna bring it down, right? I'm gonna bring it all the way down to you know, he basically cause right here, you know, it's kind of like what I just told you, you know, he you know, he told her that it's okay, that you know, he's not gonna kill her, that he needed her help, right? So we'll go to verse 13. The king said to her, "Have no fear. What do you see?" The woman said to Saul. Well, actually, let's take it back. Verse 10. But Saul swore to her by the Most High. See, he even swore by Most High's name. As the Most High lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing. Then the woman said, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" He said, "Bring up Samuel for me." When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice, and the woman said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul, the king." To her, "Have no fear. What do you see?" The woman said to Saul, "I see a divine being coming up out of the ground." He said to her, "What is his appearance?" She said, "An old man is coming up. He is wrapped in a robe." So Saul knew that it was Samuel, right? And he bowed with his face to the ground and did up the servants. Then Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" Saul answered, "I am in great distress, for the Philistines are warring against me, and Yahweh Elohim has turned away from me and answers me no more, either by prophets or by dreams. So I have summoned you to tell me what I should do." Samuel said, "Why then do you ask me, since Yahweh Elohim has turned from you and become your enemy?" See, that's the thing you don't want, man. You don't want the Most High to be your enemy, man. Right? He said, "He has become your enemy," right? And he says, then Yahweh Elohim has done to you just as he spoke by me. For Yahweh Elohim has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor, David, because you did not obey the voice of Yahweh Elohim and did not carry out his fierce wrath against Amalek. Yeah, man, he didn't complete the task, man. And look at Amalek now, man. He has the fat of the earth. Therefore, Yahweh Elohim has done this thing to you today. Moreover, the Most High will give Israel along with you into the hands of the Philistines. Tomorrow you, your sons, shall be with me. Yahweh Elohim will give the army into the hands of the Philistines. You know, basically, he told him he was going to die tomorrow. Immediately, Saul fell full length on the ground, filled with fear because of the words of Samuel. And there was no strength in him, for he had eaten nothing all day and all night. The woman came to Saul, and when she saw that he was terrified, she said to him, "Your servant has listened to you. I have taken my life in my hand and have listened to what you have said. Now therefore you also listen to your servant. Let me set a morsel of bread before you. Eat that you may have strength when you go on your way." He refused and said, "I will not eat." But his servants together with the woman urged him, and he listened to their words. So he got up from the ground and sat on the bed. Now the woman had fatted calf in the house. She quickly slaughtered it, and she took flour, and she fed him, right? You know, and then, you know, they rose up and they went their way, right? So basically, was defeated, man. And see, that's a moral lesson right there, man. The sorcery, divination, that shit ain't gonna deliver you for nothing, man. Once the Most High turns his back from you to you, you're through, man. Now, third person, which is number 8 on this list, is Lot's wife, right? She lived in Sodom, a legendary wicked ass city that got destroyed, right? When the angel told Lot and his family to flee flee for their lives, you know what I'm saying, and leave the city and don't look back. She you know she ignored the warnings, and she turned back, and she got turned into a pillar of salt, Lot's, I'm guessing that Lot's wife was more guilty than just staring, um, you know I think that she probably abandoned her family, you know what I'm saying, and she probably tried to run back to her city that she loved, you know what I'm saying, and that therefore, she shared in her destruction, and the moral of that story is that look, if you look back at your sinful ways, and that's the path to death, man. You know what I'm saying? Once you've been clean, man, you have to do your best, man. You know what I'm saying, to rehearse the righteous acts, man. And we'll read it from the scripture a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We'll go to that you can find that on Genesis 19. You know what I'm saying? And here it is. He goes. He goes. Here you go. Okay. So good. Here goes. So then the Most High rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from Yahweh Elohim out of heaven, man. Basically, fire from the sky, man. Comets, meteors, whatever you want to call it, man. You know what I'm saying? And the inhabitants of the cities, and grew out of the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. See, so she looked back, man. She fucked up, man. So basically, that's the moral of that story, man. Right here too, that's what it tells you, come out of Babylon, because unless you want to suffer in her wrath. So that's a lesson to be learned. The final one is Gomer. That was she was a prostitute married to the prophet Hosea. She abandoned him, to go after lovers, other multiple lovers. You know what I'm saying, for material things, and her lifestyle eventually led her, to financial strain, and she ended up selling herself into slavery, but despite her betrayal, Hosea ended up, recovering her, getting her back, you know what I'm saying. So that the product wife pretty much learned to appreciate, true love, and she's an example of Yahweh Elohim's love for his people. You know what I'm saying? They have, they have played the harlot spiritually, and see, Hosea, Hosea's marriage, you know what I'm saying, it's pretty much the book of Hosea can break it down to 3 parts, man. Hosea's marriage, judgment, and then forgiveness, because Hosea's marriage symbolizes Israel playing the harlot, you know what I'm saying, with other gods. So Hosea is he was commanded by Yahweh Elohim to marry a prostitute. Like I said, as a symbol of Israel playing the harlot, going after the gods. And he was to have 3 children. The first, a son named Jezreel, and he symbolized that the house of Jehu will suffer, for the bloody atrocities committed in the valley of Jezreel. You know what I'm saying? Where all their son worship, sacrificing the children to fire and all that. And then the second was a daughter, right? And her name was Loruman, which means not my people, which indicates which means her name was Loruman, right? Which means which indicates that Yahweh was not pitied, you know what I'm saying? Which was indicating that Yahweh Elohim was no longer to be patient with Israel's northern kingdom, man. You know what I'm saying? And the third was another daughter named Lo Ami. That means not my people, signifying that Yahweh Elohim was no longer to be the God of the northern tribe. Cause we got chastised first, man, for playing the harlot, right? He was no longer be the God of his people, because they refused to keep his covenant. You know what I'm saying? So it was like a divorce paper. She's not my wife, I'm not her husband. Because Israel had abandoned the Most High for the cult of Baal worship. But just as Yahweh will renew the covenant with Israel. You know what I'm saying? in the 9 days, because see, they they were celebrating, the feast days of Baal, just like now, Easter, Christmas, Halloween, all that shit. It's a cult, man, satanic, man, for sun worshiping, man. And that shows the the their infidelity emphasizes their lack of trustworthiness and knowledge of true love, man. You know what I'm saying? And that cannot be camouflaged by like superficial, worshiping and rituals, man. You know what I'm saying? Yahweh Elohim desires steady, fast love, not sacrifices or words that go in the wind, man. You know what I'm saying? And they paid then and now they'll pay again for their rebellions and iniquities, man. But the message in Hosea, man, is pretty much it ends with I hope that holiness, the holiness of Yahweh Elohim, including both His judgment and His mercy, will effectively and triumphantly return Israel to its true husband, man, Yahweh Elohim, through Mashiach Yahweh Shai and the Rakah Kadash, man. And that has and that has really happened because like us, man, the Israelites, man, we're trying to get back to the Father, man. We're tired, man. I've been the king and I've been the clown in this fucking shithole ways, man. And now I'm looking for a better way, So that's it for that part, Part 4 and the final one is Babylon. That has to be by itself, because there's a lot to say about that, hardly, spiritually, and Most High be willing, providing, we'll do that before the night ends. And on that note, shalom, fam.